All right, we are live with the recording, and I have 1:35 by my watch, so I'll go ahead and do a little intro for you guys, and then I'll let you two take it away. So, good afternoon, everybody. I hope so far you have been enjoying your eCoach day. This session I'm really excited about for you all. We have two of your colleagues actually presenting for you this afternoon. We have Elizabeth McMullen. She is at Tyler Heights, and William Bulmahn, right? Did I say that right, William?
Bull
Boom, there we
man.
go. Thank you. Both are ELL teachers. Again, like I said, Elizabeth at Tyler Heights, William at Overlook. And they're here to share with you some of the great things that they do with Wixie. They are two of our top users in the district as well. So I know you're going to get a lot of great stuff out of this. So with that, I'll turn it over to the two of you, and everyone sit back and enjoy.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Like Carrie said, I'm Bill Bulmahn, William Bulmahn. If you want to email me, it's wbulman at AACPS. But I'm a full-time ELD teacher at Overlook. It's my 4th year as an ELD teacher. I started during COVID. So I had to get pretty savvy with technology, and one of the things was Wixie that I started to use. So it's my 15th year in elementary ed, and before that, I taught 3rd grade with Miss Pacchioni for a couple of years, who's here today, and before that, 2nd grade. So, and then the pictures that you see here in the upper right-hand corner, those are my 5th grade students from a couple of years ago. We took a field trip to the Baltimore Zoo, and yep, we did a Wixie about it. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, that's my family. So.
All right, and welcome everyone. My name is Liz McMullen. As Carrie said, I am a full-time ELD teacher at Tyler Heights. This is my 7th year in Anne Arundel County. And this is my 4th year as eCoach. I started eCoach like Bill. I started during COVID. So there's a lot to learn, and a lot of, the teachers really, really needed support. So welcome. And that picture there is, yeah. That picture there is just of my family and my husband and my 2 kids on our family vacation last summer. So, all right. So our goals for today's session. We really hope that you are able to walk away from this session with some ideas on how to incorporate Wixie as an engaging technology tool. I don't know if any of you have experience with Wixie or if you've attended Scott's sessions today, which are wonderful. I actually attended 2 of them myself. He kind of goes into the whole, what is Wixie and how do you use it? Our session is going to be more kind of ideas and what the things that we do with our students. So hopefully you can kind of get some ideas to take away. We hope you also see some ways that Wixie can be utilized to help our students grow their language skills. So they're listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And then how those language skills can be embedded into our content through Wixie practice. And Bill and I kind of have some different perspectives that we're bringing to the table today. We're both ELD teachers. His role is more like a pull-out ELD instruction, whereas I'm strictly co-teaching. So hopefully you can see how Wixie is great for not only small groups, but also for the whole class as well.
All right. So any David Letterman fans out there? We're trying to have a little bit of fun today, make it a lighter mood. So when Liz and I first met, we're like, well, what do people want to see? Right. And with my experience as a classroom teacher, I was like, well, you got to give me, 5-10 things that I can try right away, that I can walk away and get something and try something. You could try it tomorrow if you wanted. So we created our top 10 of Wixie. I'm not God's gift to Wixie. I'm just a teacher that tries to use it. I love it. But that would be more like Scott. Scott is like the rock star of Wixie. But we're going to give you some examples. We're going to give you some reasons why you should try to use it. And we're going to provide you with 10 solid justifications to utilize Wixie in the classroom. Again, like now you could try it tomorrow. And then we'll sprinkle in some humor too. Okay. All right. So reason number 1 to use Wixie. So building community, celebrating students' identity, and sharing students' culture. So I feel really strongly that if you take the time to get to know kids' stories, try to find out what makes them tick, then they're going to invest in you, right? They're going to buy into what you're saying. And you can really use Wixie to get kids to share things about themselves, share things about their families. It builds camaraderie, and it elicits great questions. So one of the activities that I like to do in the very beginning of the year is we make a book, right? And it has every single student, EL student in the school. And what they do is they share, where their family is from, what languages they speak, and then they get a chance to pick the visuals that go along with it. So they can pick, the map of the country. They can pick the flag that goes along with the countries that their families are from or where they were born. And again, like some are like, oh, my family's from there, or my friend's from there too. And it just sparks great conversation. And then the other great thing is, let me just go on to the next slide. So I'll print them. Yes, I print them in color, but it's really important. And the teachers might hate me for a little bit, but and when they see the display in the hallway, like it's worth it, right? So I keep it up all year long. And again, it elicits great questions, camaraderie, and at the end of the year, they get to keep it. They get to take it home. So just one example of something that you could try to do to build culture and identity with your classes.
And with Wixie, I'll just add that to that, Bill, that with Wixie, you can actually create like a class book then with all these different slides, so that students can kind of look through it and look at their peers and where they come from and get to know them a little bit better.
And so if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see like the little microphone on each kid's slide. So they also read those things too, right? So it's an actual book. And then I'll share it with their classroom teachers, and then they can show it to the class. And that just, again, like sparks questions about, well, why do they go with Mr. Bulmahn? What are they working on there? And then I'm not just like that guy walking in the hallway that sometimes picks up the kids. Like I have like, oh, that's what he does. So.
Sorry.
Here
we go. Oops, too far.
Sorry.
All right. So like Bill, mine's not quite as elaborate as that, but I also, I believe that it's super valuable for our students and for us to really get to know our students and for them to see their identities and culture valued in the classroom. So one of the things that I do is I start the year off with just kind of getting to know the students, their interests, a little bit about their families. And I just grabbed this circle map template straight from Wixie. And I had them just put in images of things that interest them, things that they could add a picture of themselves. You can see my one little student down there, Brianna, she added a little picture of herself. They could add visuals of their family. And then they also went in and used that microphone tool to share those different interests as well. So it was a great way to get to know them.
And just to add, so Wixie saves everything for you. So if you have a student that isn't there like at the beginning of the school year and comes in like November, December, you can just go and add them in there really quickly. I know this because my students have reminded me of this, right? When I get a new student, you have to add them to the book. You have to add them to the hallway. So, but I love that they remember that and it's meaningful to them. Oops. Okay. All right. So number 2, so developing oral language skills. So what we want to do with our students is grounded in research and we want it to be backed by data. So in conversations that I've had with my literacy teacher, it's like the thing that like keeps coming up is developing their oral language. And it's not exclusively for EL students, but for all students. It's so important that all of the kids are using and practicing their oral language. And so I'm going to go on to the next slide here. And I like this quote. The research like the National Early Literacy Panel tells us that young kids with better oral language skills have an easier time learning how to read. Conversely, children who have difficulties with listening and speaking tend to have difficulty reading and learning, difficult learning to read and write. So we're gonna play this quick video, and then we're gonna show you some examples of how you can practice oral language using Wixie. Hopefully it plays.
So we know, Dr. Washington, that a speech-language deficit in early childhood can lead to a reading problem later on. But what's the connection between speaking and reading?
If you think about what children know in terms, or what they're able to do in terms of oral language by the time they come to the reading process, an awful lot of what we will teach with reading depends upon them having those skills. So for example, when we're teaching the child to break that early code, to make the sound symbol correspondences, we have to have some, the child has to have some knowledge of the sound system, have a good knowledge of the sound system, so that a child who is having difficulty producing sounds is going to have a lot of difficulty with phonological awareness, because that difficulty with production often affects perception as well. So if you pronounce the TH with an F, do you hear it that way? Sometimes you do. And that perception is going to affect your ability to learn those sound symbol correspondences. That's the sound system. When we're talking about language and vocabulary, vocabulary is something we talk about a lot, because the vocabulary that a child brings to the reading process through their oral language skills will really impact how well they do with reading. If you've ever watched a young child learn to read, you see them start with the trying to sound it out. I know the sounds and I say the word, and when I do it, it's the wrong word. Then you watch the child go through that mental dictionary and match what's in their head in that dictionary to what they see on the page. If the dictionary is deficient, we may never get to the word on the page. And so each one of those skills that a child brings from oral language to the reading process supports the reading process. It provides the foundation. And so the things that Dr. Risley's talking about as they relate to children being talkers and coming to school with a lot of words, with a lot of world knowledge, with a lot of concepts, are the building blocks upon which reading will be developed. And in the absence of those building blocks, the process is not impossible, but it's a lot harder.
Oops.
So we know, Dr.
Go back one.
Can I say something really quick, Bill, before you
Go
get
ahead.
to that?
Yep.
When we're talking about our English learners, it's so important to really build that oral language, because like she said in that video, when our students are learning to read, they're reaching for that mental dictionary. And we know our English learners are coming to us with not as strong of an English vocabulary in that mental dictionary as our English speaking students. So it's really important to build that oral language for our English learners, and Wixie does a really great job of helping with that.
All right. So can you guys hear me? All right. So here's an example of a kindergarten lesson that I use with Wixie to help build oral language. So the kindergarten curriculum, it's designed to build oral language skills at the word level, the sentence level, and then at the discourse level. So what I'll do is, many of you probably have your lessons on a Google slide or on a different slideshow. Just to make it a lot easier, what I'll do is I'll snip whatever's in the Google slides or from the whatever slideshow I'm using, I'll put it into Wixie, and then I'll have the kids practice recording their voice at the word level, recording at the sentence level, and then at the discourse level. And then we work our way up. We make videos. Sometimes they choose to do it on their own, and other times, you can see here, they'll do it as a group. Really cute. And we'll get into like how we can use it to also track growth too.
All right, so this is an activity that I used with second grade. And again, this is helping to build that oral language, but this could be used with really any text or any IRA text that you use in the classroom. But the students I snipped the little pictures of the story. They had to first put them in the order of that happened in the story. And then they got to use the talkies, which if you're not familiar with talkies, they're super fun and the kids really love them. But they are animated stickers. And they're able to click on the talkie and they can either type or use the speech to text feature and have the talkie say what they typed, or they can actually record their own voice and have the talkie, the little mouth moves. So it's really cute. But here they had to tell the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. So it's really great for students to practice that oral language. You know, they're listening to the story first, and then they have to go and retell that story. And you can also add as many talkies to a page as you want. This is also really helpful for WIDA prep. So if you're not familiar with WIDA, it is the annual language proficiency test that our students have to take yearly. And in kindergarten, the test is one-on-one with a teacher, so they're able to talk with the teacher. But then once they get to first grade, all of the speaking test is all on the computer. So it's kind of a big transition for them. It's a little weird. They're not used to talking into a computer. Yes, multiple talkies on a page. They read from top to bottom, left to right. So they're not used to talking into a computer. So this is really good practice for that test. And another thing that I do when I create an assignment is I use it. There's an instruction clipboard where you can put the directions for the assignment. And I not only write them out, but I also record my voice, or you can just have them play with the default Wixie voice. So it's really powerful for our Ls that they're not only getting the directions orally, but also in written form too.
All right, number 3. So it's great to share with parents. And I mentioned before, I don't want to be like just that guy that you see in the hallway. I want kids to know who I am, and also for parents to know who I am. So something that I like to do is I will share the Wixies with the classroom teachers, but then I'll also share the links in PowerSchool. So if you follow the directions on the screen here, it's really easy. Just click share. You can send it in an email, or you can get the link. And then if you put in a report card comment and it has to do with a Wixie, then you can just put it in the comment section. And that way parents are able to see it that way. Oh, good. Yeah. So I was a little bit nervous when I first did it. But I had a parent say, "Oh, I saw that they did that project." I was like, "Oh, that made my day. I'm glad that you saw it." And then also I try to have in my showcase, and if we have time, we'll show it a little bit later. But if there's a specific student work that I want to share at a parent-teacher conference, you can put it in your showcase folder, and then it's right there pinned for you. You don't have to go searching for it. So just another great thing that you could share with parents, so they love seeing what their kid does, and also like the growth that they're making. All right. I think this is still me, right? All right. So number 4, so team projects in collaboration. So at the very beginning, when I showed you that picture of my 5th graders that I took to the Baltimore Zoo, and they worked on a Wixie together. And so it's very, very easy to do. All you'll need to do is click on the team tab that's right on the Wixie page, and you'll toggle their names, and they'll all be on the same project. Now, we'll know what some of you are thinking, because I, during the COVID days, hated Jamboards because kids would delete other kids' things. Wixie has taken care of that because they have an inspect button. And let me go on to the next slide. I think it's a little bit more advanced. So what I was saying about the click on team projects, and then you'll toggle their name so they're on the same one, and you'll be able to see that they have access to it, because this little icon will change. So there's a 2 next to it. So I put the classroom teacher on there so they could share it. This is what the toggle looks like. The only thing is, if the kid's not an EL student, like, you can't share it with them. So it's exclusive for EL students. If they're not in your caseload, you're not going to be able to add them to it. This is for inspect. Yeah. So I love the inspect button, because you might have a project that spans 2 or 3 weeks. And if kids are going through and messing up student work, that's going to set everything back. It's going to mess up grades. It's going to mess up a lot of other things. So what you can do is you'll click on the inspect project and it'll give you a breakdown of everything that was done. So this is a great group of kids. Nobody did with like ill intent here, but Charlie accidentally put Albert's picture over part of the subtitle. So all I needed to do was find where that happened and then restore it, boom, and it went back to how it should be. So you don't have to worry about information getting lost or things getting messed up.
And it's also a great way to kind of hold all students accountable for the work. You can kind of go in and see, is it just one student that's doing the work on this activity, or are they all contributing to the assignment? So it's great to check that.
All right, so this is an example of a team project that I did this year. So I didn't go to the Baltimore Zoo this year. This year they went to the National Aquarium. So what the project was is they had to research an animal that they were going to see at the National Aquarium. And after they did the research, they had to write a letter in first-person voice pretending that they were that animal. And then they could send it to another teacher in the building by using that team feature. And then that teacher would get back and try to guess who they are. The kids loved it. They were very excited to try to stump other teachers. They could share them with other friends too, but just an example of something that you can do with the teams option.
Okay, number 5, increasing academic vocabulary. So I know for our English learners, not only producing the academic vocabulary or being introduced to it, but also being able to produce it in context is so important as well. So these were some activities that you can do to increase their academic vocabulary. This is a template that is straight from Wixie. If you go to the templates folder, there are so many templates, and this is one of the vocabulary templates, the Frere model. But there's things like a trading card you could have them do. There's actually a word wall with you're introducing multiple words. I think there's like a vocabulary cube, so you can have multiple ways that the students are interacting or engaging with that vocabulary word. Thank you. So this was the word predator. The students were using, the first thing I love about Wixie is they can use that little yellow megaphone to listen to the vocabulary word and listen to the correct pronunciation, which is really important for our English learners. And they can listen to it as many times as they want. So they're getting that listening, they're using those listening skills. Then they can also use the image tool to bring in some images to reinforce their understanding of the word. And then finally, they can come into their sentence and use it in context. So they're not only using the word at the word level, but also at the sentence level as well. And then, of course, there's always the option of using the microphone tool to build their oral language. And maybe they want to come up with a couple different sentences using that word. And then the second one, oops, sorry. We both click at the same time. The second one is multiple meaning words. So this was another template from Wixie. I believe it was the homophone template, but you could use it anyway. Again, multiple meaning words are words that are sometimes tricky for our English learners. So understanding the difference between the two and how to use it in context. They can, draw a picture if they want to. They can bring in some images from the image folder. And then also, again, can use the microphone tool to practice some oral language as well.
And I have a funny multiple meaning word story. Liz mentioned earlier about WIDA. WIDA is a beast of a test. And it takes us a long time. It takes us away from what we love to do for a long time. But and the kids, they're like, "Where are you, Mr. Bulmahn?" And I'm like, I'm almost done, guys. I just have some makeup testing to do." And the kid gets real close to me, goes, "Mr. Bulmahn, you're a boy. You don't wear makeup." So, just an example of another way that you could use Wixie, right? You could put makeup on this template. So explaining that, there's makeup testing and then makeup. So.
Yep. Great way to introduce that. All right. Number 6, providing student choice. So at my school, and I'm sure at some of your other schools, our equity focus this year is on UDL. So providing that student choice and giving them, the buffet of options. And Wixie really gives them lots of different options to choose from. So it's a really great tool for that. So these were some activities that we gave students, and they had some choice on how to complete these. But the first one on the left here was from 2nd grade. We did a PTD, and they had to, if you're not familiar with PTDs, this is the primary talent development that the students do in kindergarten through 2nd grade to identify students for the gifted and talented program. And this one, they had to create a public service announcement. And we used some different natural disasters that they had to research. This was actually a team project. These students researched earthquakes, and then they each were assigned a slide in the Wixie template, and they had to identify their safety tip and then kind of draw a picture of what that safety tip looked like. And then they could record giving their public service announcement. So they had the option of doing this on paper or on like a poster, but then they also had this option of doing it on Wixie, which most of my students chose. But then within Wixie itself, they had so many options of, recording or typing their response or drawing the picture or adding the visuals. So it really gives a lot of options there. And then on the right side was another PTD unit on tremendous trees. So students had to tell why trees are important and then try to convince people to save the trees. And again, offers a lot of choice. You can see there that they put in some images, they drew some images, they used some text. So great way for them to demonstrate their learning of the content using speaking and writing opportunities.
We did it again. There we go.
Oh, I think I did that by accident. Okay. And then this is another one. So this is like, you could offer student choice. Your students with higher oral language may prefer just to record their response. So on the left there, you see they could move the images and then record the beginning, middle, and end of the story. This was an IRA text that we did in class. Or if you have students with more of a written expressive language, they can type their response. This was also a great activity just for differentiation. With my different proficiency levels in the class, my lower proficiency level students who have higher oral language were able to do and demonstrate their learning using that left activity, whereas my students who had a little bit more writing proficiency could do the right side. And they're both, demonstrating their learning in that activity. All right, number 7 is explaining mathematical thinking. So I feel like it's really hard for my students to explain their thinking in math. And especially when it comes to having to write their explanations. But Wixie does a great job with giving them options of how to explain their thinking. So this was an activity, I think we did this in 1st grade. Again, I snipped the place value template there and just put it into Wixie, and then brought in those 10s and 1s cubes, and they were able to solve the problem on Wixie. And then they used the microphone tool to explain how they solved the problem. Another option for them would be to do the video recording. So especially for our younger students, they might be using, manipulatives on their desk, or they might be using their smart pals to solve the problem. But then they can use that video tool to show and explain how they solve that problem, explain their thinking. So it really gives the students who may not have the writing skills yet to explain a chance to, show how they solved a problem, and shows how they demonstrate their learning in that. So, and this was an example from, I believe, 4th grade, that the students, they were able to go in and create their own, or show the steps of explain the steps of a problem. I believe this was on numerators and denominators. So they were doing fractions. And again, it gives them some choice of how they want to create their background. They could type, they could use the audio recording. I also thought of, they could go into Wixie and create their own word problems and give them some choice of what images they want to create or use on that activity. So it was a really, really great way for them to do that.
All right, so number 8. So Wixie, I think it's a great lesson planning tool that can be used to ignite, chunk, chew, and review. So Wixie can be used to get the brain's attention, to ignite it, and something that recently that I've used are the talkies. The kids love the talkies. If you went to Scott's earlier presentation about talkies, it was great. There's a lot of different characters that you can choose that go along with yeah, right. So there's a lot of different characters that you can choose that go along with the topics that you're teaching. When I did the lesson that was on the screen, this was before talkies, but I think now there is actually a tornado that you could have talking. So we did a book about extreme weather, and then we made a book about how to actually make a tornado in a bottle. So I was connecting their prior knowledge. Remember when we did this? Revisit really quickly. Now we're going to use that information to make a tornado in a bottle. And this was a fan favorite from the kids and from the parents too. And just something that you could try definitely to ignite and get their attention. All right, so you can utilize Wixie to pace concept and skills using student-chosen visuals so they can cement meaning. So this is a recent Wixie that I'm doing as part of an exhibition project because Overlook is a PYP school. And so what some of my 5th graders had to do is they had to choose a topic. The topic that they chose was fire prevention. And what they wanted to do was interview a firefighter. So what we did is we started to create all of the tasks that we were going to do in the Wixie and slowly build this project. So they first they made the questions on Wixie. Then we did the interview with the firefighter. And then, so I just learned today that the video on each Wixie page can be about 5 minutes. So the interview was about 30 minutes. So you could chop it up and plug and put it in on each page. And then what the kids did is they revisited what they learned from the interview and wrote up what they learned and made their own visuals to go along with it. So here on the screen, one of the things that the kids wanted to know was like, what is the most common cause of house fires? And it was grease in the kitchen. And so this kid made this really nice picture of a fire in a kitchen. And then another kid had a question about, Mr. Bulmahn, how do they find out how a fire happened? And learned more about like what a fire marshal does and their roles and responsibilities. And again, like this was something that we had to chunk, and it just made it more digestible that, okay, we did this on Wixie at the beginning of the week. Here's our plan, what we're going to do next. And it was a progression. So this is something that I definitely wanted to have that inspect button, because this is a project that took several weeks. I didn't want it getting messed up. So I was glad that I had that. Didn't have any issues, but I'm just glad that it's there. Again, so I could go back and fix anything that maybe got mixed up. Their exhibition presentation is tomorrow. So, all right. And so so Wixie can be used to give students time to actively process new information. Utilize Wixie to help kids process context by storifying them. Thank you very much, Trisha. One of the things that we just did, we were focusing on energy, and we made a solar light jar, and they made a solar light jar blueprint, and then made the solar light jar. But what they did to kind of, again, prove to me what they learned about solar energy is they made a book. And so each kid was assigned their own book. And I did make, I had little sentence starters on each page. But again, like Liz had mentioned, I could differentiate it based on their proficiency levels. And I kind of just let them go with it. And then sat back, and you can kind of be the facilitator. As they're with me, I'm walking around, and I can kind of, pick up on, okay, you have this misconception. We need to go back and we need to review this. Or, wow, you got this, keep going. Wixie is a great way to kind of, chew on the information that you've been learning about in your class. And review. So Wixie can be used to give students a chance to apply new learning. So on the screen here, this is an example of some kindergarten lessons. So it's really, really hard to see, sorry, but on the left, it's lesson 1.5, and we were focusing on using the word man at the word level, the sentence level, and then the discourse level. And then in lesson 6, we were focusing on the word itch, but I want to build upon, right, what they've already learned. So I can easily, go back and be like, guys, remember we did learn this word. Remember we talked about the meaning and how to use it in a conversation. So it's just a really easy way to review what they've already learned, to rewatch what they have said. It's in their words, not in mine, and their peers. And again, it goes back to that Ignite piece. They get really, really excited to hear their own voice, to see themselves on screen and their classmates.
All right, number 9 is building foundational literacy skills using all language domains. So this activity that I created was kind of like a supplemental activity to their foundations instruction that they're doing in their classroom. And it was a great way for them to use all their language skills in one activity. So these were trick words. The students were able to use that microphone, or not the microphone, I'm sorry, the megaphone, that yellow button, to hear the correct pronunciation at the word level, and then how it's used in the sentence at the, in context at that sentence level. And then they also had the option to see the image or put in their own image if they wanted to support that reading comprehension. And then using writing skills to practice writing, which I just learned in Scott's lesson or session the last one, that there is a new font that actually gives you those kindergarten lines. So I didn't know that. So I might be using that in the future.
And a font that's specific for kids with dyslexia, which
yes.
I didn't know they had that feature either. So
yeah, I think those are new. So that's really cool. Yeah.
So the font was called, I wrote it down just a second.
Yeah, it's Open Dyslexic.
Open Dyslexic. So
yes, that's
and
the
then
new
it's
font.
line dots and line font, I think, are the ones with the lines. Because they were new to me too. Again, just new on Friday, according to Scott.
Right. So they can get that practice writing that new word. And if they're ready, they can create their own sentence. And then they also can I put in a little talkie there so that they could use that microphone to read the word, read their sentence, and also practice that oral language. But I also thought about, they could do this not only with trick words, but also if they're ready for those CBC words and they're ready to practice saying them, they can mark them up with the paint tools. They can put in their own images to help support the meaning of the word. So a lot of options there for practicing their foundational skills.
I will say one thing, Liz. So there is like a little bit of a learning curve when you click on the little yellow megaphone when the kids are saying the word. If they're too close to their friend, it's going to pick up the background noise. But like once, you do it for the first couple of times and you kind of, train your kids, like the expectations when other people are recording, you just have to set aside that time for, to teach the kids how to use it.
Yeah. And one thing I really love about Wixie now, this isn't, very new, but the option when they're searching for images, they have that little microphone option. So if they don't know how to spell the word sad or toy or whatever, they could use that microphone to just say the word and it'll type it for them. So there's that speech to text option. And that's also an option within the actual Wixie template too, or the Wixie page where they can, there's also that option for the text box. They could use the microphone to say what they want to type.
And then the other thing, I have some kids that they're like, Mr. Bulmahn, I don't like the sound of my own voice. And I was like, sometimes I don't either, bud. So what you can do is you can change the voice. You can slow it down so it doesn't sound like they sound, and they like to play with it. So.
Mm-hmm. And the reality is that they're going to have to do this on the speaking test for WIDA. So it's great practice for them. The more comfortable that they get doing it, the easier it is for them on that speaking test.
Nope.
All right, number 10, final top 10 here is using Wixie templates to brainstorm, organize, and share their writing. So this was an activity that we are actually currently doing in second grade. And I guess this is a good way to share that chunking of information. So we started off with, they're doing opinion writing right now, and their next district assessment is coming up, and they have to write a letter convincing someone to read an article or read a certain text. So we've been practicing opinion writing. We've been practicing letter writing a lot. But all these templates are directly from Wixie. I did kind of customize them a little bit. But the circle map, they first just used that to brainstorm all of their ideas. They wanted to share what their favorite pet would be. If they could get a pet, any pet that they want, I had a student choose a blue whale, as long as they could convince me. But they could choose any pet, and then they had to give me those reasons for why they would want that pet. And then they took those ideas from their circle map and they put it into that graphic organizer there, which was an opinion graphic organizer I found on Wixie. I did modify it a little bit to include a lead and closure, because that is something that they have to have. The expectations for second grade is that they have an introduction and a conclusion. So again, I differentiated this for my students. Some of my students got those sentence frames, whereas some of them did not. So I was able to do that right in Wixie there. And then they finally went into their friendly letter template, and they were able to use what they had on their graphic organizer to type out their letter. And then I also had them record themselves reading their letter. So it's a great way to, have students practice that whole writing process. Yes, thank you, Carrie, for putting those in there.
All right, so we got a little bit of time, so if it's okay with you guys, we can maybe show some of our favorite Wixies, and then if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I was going to show you the one that I mentioned that I'm doing for exhibition. Let's see if I can do this. Share this tab instead. It's something I forgot to mention is the book that my students made. It's a bilingual book. So you guys see? Okay, good. Let me go to show. So again, here's my fire prevention group. This is the firefighter that we interviewed, and it's that late. You're gonna hear the afternoon announcement in just a second here. So But the students recorded their own voice on each page about what they learned, and then they translated as best they could into. You're a little bit ahead of me, Liz.
Yeah.
And then I am not fluent in Spanish.
Bada bing, bada boom. Good afternoon, amazing Overlook Owls. This is Miss Martini here with your afternoon announcement.
I told you we were gonna have fun.
The time is now 2:20,
Yeah.
and we will start dismissing in 5 minutes. Safety patrols, you are dismissed to your duty location.
Yeah, bada bing, bada. So I usually do the afternoon announcements. So that's my secretary. And you know what? Let's just go to questions. I think.
I know. I think mine are
Yeah.
going to come on as well soon. Yeah, we only have a couple more minutes. Does anyone have any questions or have any? You need us to show you anything of how to create something or how to do anything in Wixie? Please let us know.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Miss Pacchioni, don't leave without saying goodbye.
And I know we didn't put our email addresses on there, but we'll maybe link those in the session catalog. If you have any questions or you are interested in any of the templates that we created, I'm more than happy to share them.
Thanks,
with
Daniel.
You,
I appreciate that.
And keep in mind, I know you guys had talked about clipping some of the things from the curriculum documents and whatnot, but you can upload directly to Wixie PDFs and Google Slides as well. So you can take those existing, already formatted materials or whatever and put them right into Wixie without having to go through the issue of clipping. Sometimes you want to clip, I get it, because you don't want the whole page.
Yeah.
But if it is a PDF or something, they're actually very easy to upload. And we do have those directions if on teacher intro if you need them. And Dan, I won't tell Scott, I promise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, Miss Pacchioni. Yeah.
Yes, we can put the slideshow right into that session catalog as well.
Yep.
Carrie, I had one question actually. So what I try to do is I'll be presenting like in my classroom, and then I'll have like a recording station.
Okay.
And I noticed that if I'm logged into Wixie on 2 devices, it's very quick to kick me out.
Yes, and that's something actually on Wixie side. We can't really do anything on that one. It used to be actually you could only be signed in once, even if you were on the same machine.
Oh.
And as soon as you would open a second tab, it could kick you out.
Okay.
I've noticed that has vastly improved.
Yeah.
I'm now able to have 2 tabs open if I'm on the same device. But yeah, the different devices, that's a Wixie thing.
So that's kind of the reason that I'll do it in Google Slides, but then flip it and put it into Wixie, because if I can't have it in 2 places, then, it's a mess with kindergarten. So, they're very eager to record. They don't want no downtime.
No.
I did put the attendance link in the chat, by the way. So if any of you need that, or please take a moment to do that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now since we just are in the questions piece. So